Hi guys, I'm Eli, Technology Team Leader at COTI. Today I will introduce you the simulation of COTI Cluster. This is the two-dimensional simulation of the COTI Cluster. The x-axis represents time, while the y-axis represents trust scores. Each circle represents the different stage of confirming transactions in COTI's cluster. Orange transactions are sources in the cluster. A source is a transaction that is attached to the cluster, but with no transaction currently attached to it. When a new transaction arrives, the source selection algorithm is used to choose two sources. It then validates those sources and becomes a source itself. Blue circles are transactions that have been validated by sources. Finally, the black circles are confirmed transactions. By transaction consensus, we need to find the heaviest cumulative trust score chain, as we call it Trustchain. If the cumulative trust score of a trust chain has surpassed a predetermined threshold, then we can say the transaction has reached consensus and the COTI coins can be successfully transferred. Now that you have an idea of each transaction type, I will explain the different parameters before running the simulation. The mathematical model for a new transaction flow is defined by Poisson process with parameter lambda. Lambda is a measure of how many new transactions per second will arrive to the cluster on average. We set lambda to 40 new transactions. Second parameter is delta t. It is the total processing time it takes a full node to run the attachment algorithm and do the proof of work. We set delta t to 1 second. The third parameter is rho. Rho is a fraction of the size of the trust neighborhood and all the sources. The trust neighborhood is the candidate sources that each transaction receives when it runs the source selection algorithm. We set rho to 0.05. This means each transaction will continue looking for a trust neighborhood until the trust neighborhood population becomes 5% of all sources. The last parameter is simulation speed. Now let's run the simulation. You can see that new transactions become sources, quickly turning to blue and then to black, depending on their trust score. Let's see the correlation between the trust score of each transaction and its confirmation delay. With higher trust scores, there are more black transactions, which are confirmed transactions. But when the trust score is low, there are many more blue transactions waiting to be confirmed. This is the result of our consensus. By definition of consensus, the trust chain of highly trusted transactions will be shorter. For example, the trust chain of this transaction is of length 3, so it will take little time for a highly trusted transaction to reach consensus. On the other hand, the trust chain for less trusted transactions will take longer, which will result in a longer confirmation time. Now let's go to COTI's 3D simulation. In the 3D simulation, we can control the same parameters as in the 2D simulation, but can also move the simulation and even zoom in to have a better look at each transaction. Also, if we press on one of the black confirmed transactions, we can immediately see the trust chain that confirm it in red. For instance, if we press this transaction, we can see its initial trust score and the trust chain that confirm it. I hope now you understand more about COTI Cluster. Feel free to send us your questions.